מדברים אמזון, הפודקאסט שמקלף את שכבות העולם הסבוך של אמזון, עם עמית רוזנטל ואלי ונטורה, שני יזמים ותיקים ומנוסים בעולם האי-קומרס. בואו נצא לדרך.
Welcome to Amazon Talk podcast episode number 78. I am Eli Ventura, my colleague Amit Rosenthal here with me as every week. I remind you that you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and to see us on YouTube. And Amit just got back from Shenzhen a few hours ago.
Yeah.
How was it?
Crazy, like super intense, like exploring China, but like the hospitality of the Chinese people is really something like to learn from. It's just crazy.
Shenzhen's a pretty cool place,
yeah. Like you cannot even think about taking your wallet out because no way. Like you will not, like you cannot pay on anything. Everywhere they're taking you to eat, to drink, everything. So it was amazing, and business-wise, a lot of opportunity there for sure.
Yeah.
So we have a very
about 25 years old, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's and you know, in Israel, our population is about like 9 million, and just in Shenzhen is about like 25 million. So to give the comparisons.
So we have a very, very special guest today, and he already talked. So Amit, please introduce.
Right. So today with us, Ian says. So I think Ian is one of the top like figure in the industry. The list of achievement and success that he gained throughout like his business career is just amazing. So in this time, Eli, we will give Ian the opportunity to introduce himself. So Ian, thank you for having the time with us and welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Sure.
Yeah, like you said, I've been around for a while, since about 2014 or so. I've bought and sold a couple of brands. Most recently sold a brand, seven-figure brand to Thrasio about 3 years ago, just before COVID. But I, through the process, have developed a lot of different tools and built a community called $1 Million Sellers that now has over 600 members globally. And together we do about $8 billion in sales. So really a high-level community of sellers. And then we also have, through that process and through understanding the culture and what the needs are of sellers, I've been able to build a number of different tools such as RebateKey. I've been able to build, and then JoinBrands is our newest project that I've put out there on the market, which really helps brands connect with influencers and UGC creators instantly.
You know that RebateKey was one of the most popular tools of the Israeli sellers on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, it's still around, but Amazon changed their policies on doing outside rebates, and we were the largest. We paid out over $150 million in rebates, and to this day, we're still trying to figure out how to bring it back because I think there is a need for rebates, digital rebates. That's kind of the whole idea. I think that area got abused, right, by a lot of sellers through other means, but being the largest, I think Amazon just kind of tried to put a kibosh to that part of the business because they want that business for their PPC.
Definitely. So I want you to take us a journey back in time, about a half a year before you enter the Amazon world, the e-commerce world. What are you doing these days? How old are you? And what motivates you to start your journey?
Yeah, well, I mean, my journey came from, I was back in the real estate days and doing a lot of real estate out of college and loans and buying and selling and doing a commercial property. But I started investing in a friend who was buying stuff and flying to China and importing and selling on Amazon. It seemed pretty cool. So that kind of turned into us starting a business together and eventually selling that business. And through that process, I decided, hey, I'm going to start another Amazon store myself and learn from some of the mistakes that we had made together. Now that was early in 2012. And through that process, I was able to create a really great brand, but also built a community that I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, but, trying to get together some of the top talkers and people in the space that were really making a difference or chatting a lot in the community and just putting them in one group. And it was originally called the 50K and up group, and then it became the 100K and up group. And eventually we called it the $1 Million Sellers, where you have to do at least $1 million in revenue in the last 12 months to get into the group. So all of my ventures have kind of been like a rolling ship from one project to the next, but also like just understanding the community and what the needs are, kind of moved me into this software space, and where I can see like, hey, coupons were so obvious. People were giving out 99% off coupons, and Amazon can't possibly like that. So that's kind of what led me to, come up with the idea for RebateKey, and then, co-founded that with a partner of mine.
Actually, it's pretty amazing, but I want to go back to your Amazon time. You say 2012, 2014?
When I started, yeah.
When the blue oceans was all around.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. I mean,
can you share with us
good old days?
Can you share with us, how did you start? Did you take a course or only with your friend guidance?
Yeah, my friend had already been doing a bit of Amazon stuff. And so, he was taking some investment from friends. And so we invested in speakers and solar panels. And we were actually making our products at the same time as Anchor was, and they were actually building their products in our factories when we went to visit. And this was before Anchor was Anchor, right? They were just a competitor of ours. And it was pretty wild to see how that, progressed. But, back in those days, there was no PPC. You couldn't do sponsored products. I mean, we would ask friends and family for reviews. We would go to a coffee shop and get people to leave us reviews. There was no policy on it. It was just how can you get some initial sales, some inertia on your products. And then, it was basically, the good old days of SEO, when you could put a bunch of keywords on your listing and it would rank, right? Yeah. So those were fun times, and learned a lot about the business. And coming from real estate, for me, it really showed me how I could be building a business and making money while I sleep. Whereas my real estate business was really good, but I always was the center point of every transaction, and it was very hard to replace myself. And so I could see how, Amazon, it's you put the time and energy in up front, and then you get the benefits over and over and over again.
Do you think there is a guidelines, similar lines between the real estate and Amazon?
I think there is a bit of it, because real estate's all about, marketing. It's about selling. It's about leverage, right? And so I also invest in real estate. So understanding those different mechanics of
market research.
And market research even, right? What's a good property to invest in? What you think the appreciation will be? How many units can you fill up of that apartment building, right? All that stuff is important, but understanding how to market was something that I was already good at. And I had a background in computer science and SEO and stuff like that. So that's what really gave me the advantage over other real estate agents at the time, because I knew how to rank my website to the top of Google for San Diego homes for sale. And so I was driving, 20, 30, 40, 50 leads a day on my website of people looking for houses. And this is in the original refi boom, and the purchase boom. So early 2004. And so that was allowed me to do that. And then understanding, how to build a brand, how to build myself into a brand, right? That people trust, they like, they know. You send out information on what the market is doing, what your thoughts are. And so it's really all those same components kind of translate into Amazon, only I'm not the figurehead anymore. I'm not the person that everybody has to put on their phone number to dial, right, and get in touch with. So, and then I think like the other side of it is understanding good leverage and how to buy real estate, let's say with, good loans and having debt. A lot of people shy away from debt. I don't. When I see an opportunity, I can see how I can borrow for 5% and make 25% every quarter with that same cash. I'm really realizing how much value can be created with the same amount of money, throughout the course of a year on an Amazon business, because you're turning your inventory with the same cash.
It's the same advice you can give to an Amazon seller?
Say again?
You think that the same advice you can give to Amazon seller? For example, if you see a good opportunity, take a loan and leverage? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, don't do it in the beginning. You got to learn a lot of lessons, but once you understand how this works, and of course you're not going to hit 100% of your tries, but when you understand the mechanics better, especially on your new launches, the ones that are going really well, you should put debt on those, because you free up all your capital to go do something else and start another product line, right? And the debt previously was really cheap. I mean, you could get lines of credit for 2%, about a year ago. So those were the opportunities to win on. Now you're looking at 7 to 10%, which is much higher. but still brands, you know, can make a lot of money on it, because if you think about it, right, let's say you turn your inventory 4 times a year, right? So you buy 5,000 units every quarter. You know, let's say that is a $200,000. Well, you know, I put out $200,000, I get my inventory, right? I'm not having to borrow another $200,000 to buy again. I get some of that capital back. So now I have $180,000 back from Amazon, and I go buy another order. And so that same cash of that loan, I'm paying 7 or 10% on, and let's say I'm making 20%, right? Every time I turn, I'm making 20%. So I'm only paying out 7% on that loan, but I've collected over the course of the year 80%. So I'm really making 70% on that money. Why would you not do that? And you know, everybody should realize how much money they can make in their Amazon business, and compare that to where else you could put your capital. And you know, there is a time, and my age, I'm 41 now, like diversifying and not going, you know, all in. But when you're young, I mean, when you understand what you're doing, take advantage of the market, because it changes, right? There used to be no PPC. Now there is. Competition was easier. If I had gone more all in on something that I knew was working, I would have done a lot better, right? If I had gone all in on a product that I, you know, saw was doing really well, I would have done a lot better. But don't go all in on something that you don't know. There's too many unknowns, right? You need to know as many variables as possible. So I do think that leverage is super important to any business, and any business you look at on the stock market, whatnot, they all have leverage.
Okay, so you created a store with your friend, and then you created your own store, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
What was the point that you say, okay, this is a business. This is a business that can make millions?
Yeah. Well, our first store, we got it to about $1 million in revenue within about a year and a half or so. And so I definitely knew it was a business, and we were taking checks out. But at that time, in early 2012, we were being advised to get into retail. Amazon was so new, right? Yeah. And people were telling us we needed a patent and all these things. So, you know, we were looking to the advice of other people. And I think, like, had we not chased retail and Walmart and go to trade shows and just focus on our Amazon business, we would have been a lot bigger and made a lot more money. But we took we kind of took our profits from Amazon and invested it into the traditional market, because that's what our advisors had told us at the time. So, you know, for us, like, I understood this model. And of course, like I said, you know, having done a lot in real estate prior to that, I understood how much better this was than my real estate business, which also made me good money. So I just said, hey, once we got that to that size, we kind of wanted to split ways. And we ended up selling off that business, you know, for a couple of times on our EBITDA. And, you know, I decided, hey, you know, I'm going to keep doing real estate, but I'm going to start an Amazon business on my own, just my own project on the side. And within a year, I was doing over $1 million in revenue from my garage. So, because I already understood the mechanics, I already understood what kind of product I needed to launch, and it was still early days, so it wasn't too complicated. And that's the brand that I ended up selling, you know, a couple of years later to Thrasio, you know, and it was doing over $6 million in revenue at the time. Wow. So, yeah.
And when was the time that you decided to start doing something else? For example, RebateKey?
Yeah. So like I said, like, all of my things kind of evolved from each other. And so by running my own Amazon store, I built this community that I could bounce ideas off, but with people that I could trust, right? And people that I knew were doing the same thing as me, versus all the other groups I saw out there where there's people asking questions that, you know, I get asked every single day, right? Is this a good product to launch? You know, posting screenshots, you know, people spamming, all that stuff. So my community kind of built slowly over time. We still build it slowly over time. We don't let in a ton of people. And because that connection that we have really is authentic, and we want to help and support each other, because we know that there's enough winners to be in this. And you could be selling pet supplies and I could be selling pet supplies, but we can still help each other because there's enough room at the top, right? Or we're all selling different things. But the cool thing about Amazon is that the mechanics of selling pet supplies versus baby supplies versus, you know, household goods, it's all the same, right? Optimize the listing, drive traffic, get reviews, you know, improve these things, right? PPC, it doesn't change across different industries. And I really like that about Amazon.
So I have a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
Like, there is a huge difference between like having like an Amazon brand that basically, let's say you're running yourself, then like having like a community, which like everybody needs to be engaged. You have to create a dynamic between people. You have to create intimacy. So how you manage basically, because it's, let's say it's almost 180% like different style of business. So how basically you manage to create it, finding the right people, insert in the right people into the community?
Well, our community grows by referral only. So the people are bringing like-minded people back to the community. So that's kind of how that operates. We don't really do any marketing. I mean, we're trying to get more awareness out and bring more value because, you know, we have lots of resources. We have events around the world where we put on a lot of different things, and we have chapters in different parts of the world. But for me, it kind of evolved. Like I said, like we got to 150 members and I said, wow, this is a lot of work to manage this community, right? And I'm interviewing everybody. Everybody back then had to message me. We'd have a call. They'd have to send me a picture of their ID and a peace sign showing their screenshot of their numbers. And it had to be from right then. I had to see the time and all this stuff. So it couldn't be faked. And also, you know, we vetted them for their, you know, their ability to offer to the community and how they interact and if they have ego or they don't. So, you know, that is super important to us. But once we got to 150 people, I said, I got to start charging, you know, to, you know, moderate this. So everybody
it was free?
It was free back then. It was just me managing the community. So, you know, it wasn't a business model. It was just a place to hang out because I knew from my real estate days that I don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? I don't need to, you know, spearhead my own work by myself and all this stuff. And I really wanted to build a community around me. I just didn't know at the time what I was building. But once we got to about 100 members, I saw a future, right, for this. And it was one of the reasons why I sold my brand as well, is because of the opportunity that, you know, $1 million sellers, you know, was going to create, right, to build up this type of community. And my background, you know, has always been a person that connects people and helps people and really social and like, you know, really just kind of like, I like to know everything and I like to know everyone, right? But I also like to stay away from being front and center and things like that. So it's kind of a catch-22 for me. But through that, you know, we built this great community and the members loved the community because they had a place to share ideas and tips and tricks that weren't being resold to an audience, right, through like info marketers and things like that, right? A lot of the times your ideas, you know, they're only good for so long and then everybody finds out and then you got to move on to the next thing, right? And so that's kind of where RebateKey came out of. And actually a bunch of people in MDS had invested in it early on. And so, you know, it was just an idea that I had because the funny story is I used to work at Circuit City, which was like a Best Buy, right, when I was a kid. And I used to sell printers and copiers. And people would have to cut out the UPC and mail it back in to get a check in the mail, right, for the product because the manufacturer would give a manufacturer rebate. And so I was like, hey, why don't we do this for Amazon sellers, right, e-commerce people in general? And so when you buy a product, you mail it in, and then you know the brand gets to collect the information, and they give you some cash back, and it doesn't hurt the retailer because the retailer got full price, and that's how manufacturer rebates work. And that's the sad thing about this whole shutdown of rebates is rebates have been around forever, right? Manufacturers help incentivize auto dealers to, you know, to sell more cars by offering a manufacturer rebate. They don't penalize the dealership for making less money, right? So the manufacturer is always, you know, in charge of doing that. So it all kind of came together. And that idea just blew up, right? And it just became, you know, there was people against it, and eventually everybody came around and said, you know, this is a great way. It's great for Amazon. They're making more money. It's great for sellers because they're able to drive sales on their brands as if they were standing at a street corner, you know, handing out products, right, to get testers. And it really, you know, we knew that, you know, selling more helped you rank higher on Amazon. It was never an intention to manipulate Amazon or anything like that. And we try to stay away from all of those types of things. But yeah, that kind of led us into, you know, the next project, right? Where, you know, we're like, in building RebateKey, I did a lot of like outreach to influencers to get, you know, couponers talking about RebateKey, to get brands, you know, talking about it. And so, and then for my own Amazon business, like, how do you get influencers talking about it? So we had a VA that would reach out, do all these things, it would take forever. We'd send out products, right? And then they wouldn't do the videos, it would take forever. You know, they'd want more money, all this stuff would happen. And so that led into the next project to solve another problem, which was, how do I work with UGC creators and influencers quickly and easily? And that's where JoinBrands, you know, idea came about, you know, and because we had this whole team on RebateKey, we just decided to like start investing into a new project and make that, you know, a success. And so far, you know, we're about a year in and it's doing really well.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. I know.
But
That's kind of like the story of my life. I open my mouth and something happens and turns into business. I haven't learned how to, do the right thing, which is say no to everything, just focus on one thing. And I think that's something that, entrepreneurs, probably you guys have the same, thing as a lot of us, is just like, how do we focus when there's so many opportunities out there? And you really have to know that this is the opportunity that's going to take you to the next level, right?
Story of my life.
Yeah,
Focus.
exactly.
I want you please to elaborate about the community. So we started with 100, 150. It was free. It's a bunch of big sellers, $1 million sellers that created a mastermind and share tips, tricks. Nothing to show, right? You don't see my inventory. You don't see my stuff. Yes, right. It's only hypothetical, and share hacks. What is the next step? How it became the MDS of today?
How it became that way? Well, a lot of it had to do with us starting to do events. So we kind of bridged the gap between this online community, right, of people that don't really know each other, to a community where when you actually met people you've been chatting with for 6 months, it's like you're instant friends and you know so much about each other, and then you start to build a relationship and care and side chat and all that stuff. So the events was an integral part of making MDS successful. The having core values like give more, get more, what would mom say, things like that really help like people, operate in the community properly and align on their interests and their ideas and their beliefs, right? And so, we don't allow political conversations, to happen, because there's just, everybody's on different sides of the coin, right? But just really building a deep community and then offering these resources, these different types of things that we have that are available for sellers to really get more value out of the group. Because obviously, it's a great group of people. We're always bringing in new people, and the new people add a lot of value, right? Because they're either moving faster or they've got new ideas that you didn't think of. And as your business gets bigger, you don't know what the little guys know that's growing them really fast. Operations, processes, how to hire people. And so the value exchange starts to widen, but everybody can learn from each other. And so we actually don't have a separate chat group for 10 or 20 million and up. We have they have like their own chat, but like we don't have a group for them, because I think they'd miss out on a lot of value in the lower groups, and the lower groups would miss out on a lot of value of what they offer. And so I think that the information exchange is super important. And so we've stayed away from like splitting up the group in that way.
And the events became something regular? You're doing every month?
Yeah. So we out of COVID, we cranked up, did a lot of events, traveled around a lot. But now we've introduced chapters, and so we have about 12 chapters around the world. Right now, we're adding about 5 more this year. And those chapters actually get together on a monthly basis, hold boardrooms, and do other things. We record it and let them watch all the content, right? And the chapters, like there's a president of the chapter and 2 other committee people. So they're running these like local things to have more events consistently where we don't have to be at. And then we have our main summit, which is in Barcelona in about 30 days, where we're going to have about 150 of our members there and some partners. And we do a 4-day event that's just like top notch. It's at the W. It's everything we do is always like top notch, because that's where our sellers really, like to go experience. They usually make a trip out of it. Last year was in Mexico City. Alternatively, we also have another event called Inspire, which is our only event that's open to anyone in the Amazon space. And last year was the first year we did it. It's just before Prosper, and mdsinspire.com. You can go there and check it out. But basically, we are allowing like our members give talks. We have partners that give talks, and we do a really high end like networking experience. So you won't see like a bunch of people standing behind booths trying to sell you. It's really a curated experience with top-notch food and top-notch networking.
When this event will happen?
This is just before Prosper.
On Vegas?
Yeah, yes, in Las Vegas. So
you're expecting people to come to Vegas for 10 days?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, or eventually you'll just come to our event. But basically, we don't have a lot of people who are just like salespeople going up there and sharing stuff. A lot of our members create tools. They have ways of doing things, how to do PR, how to launch a product. Here's a tool that we built within the support and help of MDS that we're now offering publicly, that really helps you like do split testing or whatnot. And so we give our members a chance to really get their products and services in front of a lot more people. And the other thing is in MDS, we don't really allow people to go out there and just promote their products. They have to be very careful how they share, things they're working on, but we want to support them. Right. And so this is one way we're able to give our members abilities to, grow their offerings, because as you grow in this business and you start losing focus or your business is running itself, essentially, you're like, hey, how do I solve this SPQ, data problem? Or how do I do better split testing than what's on the market? And then you go invest $100,000 in building your own tool, which again, similar to what I've done is basically build these things that like fix problems that continuously exist, shipping the tools and all that stuff. So it's really exciting to watch our members grow. And this is a space where we allow anybody to apply to get in. We still don't let everybody in because we want to keep the ratio of like service providers to sellers really low. But it's really more about having a lot of different talks by real sellers who are selling continuously and constantly. And that's what they do as their main job. And so the value is massive at our event, and people were just super excited. So next year it'll be about double the size, about 500 people we expect in Prosper next year, just before Prosper.
Elie, I have a question to Ian, and Ian, if you don't mind, I would like to go back a little bit. So let's talk maybe about like being an entrepreneur, taking like risk, trying to like taking advantage on opportunity that's coming by. So you talk about RebateKey, and like it was a huge success, and it's basically turned off by Amazon, right? So it's have nothing to do with you in that regard, because Amazon new regulation and Amazon TOS and so forth. So how do you take it, or how do you feel like when something bad basically happened to your business, which is out of your control, and how you basically wake up the next morning and keep fighting for the next day?
Man, I really appreciate this question. That was one of the hardest times I've ever had experience, because we had reached a level of success and, looking at potential exit opportunities. And that really crushed us at that time. We'd already, started the process. So it was really hard. And I said, why me? Why is this happening to me? I don't get it. And I was really sad for a couple of days. And, I have the fortunate ability to like kind of put the past and say, I can't change the past, right? That's the past, and my friend told me it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry for a day, whatever. Right. But then you can move on, because I never felt that kind of emotion. I've always been a positive person. So like little setbacks don't really set me back. How do I fix the future? Because I can't change the past. And that's kind of the way I live. And from that, we grew and we kind of sat together and, steamrolled another idea that we had been pondering on what product to place it in, and having an influencer module and things like that, and just realized it was its own business. And hey, here's another problem that is growing in a space that seems amazing. And we put a lot of energy and time into brainstorming it and building it. But yeah, that's a hard time. And as an entrepreneur, I think if you are a seasoned entrepreneur, that you don't win them all, and there's setbacks always, but it just makes you stronger. It makes you more aware, and it makes you appreciate what you have or had. And I think also timing is super important, and we waited maybe a little bit too long to take next step, because we had bigger dreams. You keep moving the goalposts. Oh, we're going to make X amount of money. Okay, now we're going to make X amount of money, once you reach that. And now we're going to make, this could be X, right? And so you just basically keep moving goalposts on you, but not realizing that, hey, maybe this is a good time to reset, or maybe there's a better opportunity for you out there, and you need that space. So it's one of those things that I think entrepreneurs learn, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So, I built my own real estate business. I've started my own little, dog walking services when I was a kid, and I was a real estate broker. Got my license as a broker before I graduated college, and was able to, build my own brokerage. And then I had a bunch of agents, and I started doing flips and investing in commercial real estate, and had over 100 employees. And, it became a lot. And that's just, there's setbacks there. We had a building catch on fire because there was arson, and it's like, you're in the middle of a major remodel, and what do? You can't just throw in the towel. So, every step of the way, there's been setbacks. And, as an entrepreneur, you just have to keep pushing forward and just ignore it, right? Don't learn from it, but just say, what's the worst that, when I go into a business, what's the worst that can happen? I fail, big deal. That's kind of how I have always, told people to really, because the people come to you and they go, I have this idea for this. And I'm like, so why don't you do it? Oh, because of this and this and this and this. All these roadblocks, all these issues. And for me as an entrepreneur, I've just never had those things. I just go, okay, well, what's it going to cost me? Okay, I need $5,000. Okay, let's do it and see what happens, right? And I think, I've been through a lot, right, at my age, and built a lot of businesses and had some really good success. And so I just know that at this point, I just want to be more cautious of how I take those new opportunities and make sure that I take advantage of the opportunity I have in front of me as well.
Wow.
Nice. I think the biggest lesson is timing, Ellie. Like timing is the god of everything.
Yeah. I think you keep putting that goalpost pushing thing it's a real, and it's like, it's the same in the stock market that I get exposed to, right? You're invested in a stock, it goes up 25%, which is amazing in a month. And then you're like, oh, what if it goes up 50%, And so then when you look a month later and it's now down 12%, you're like, I wish I sold. It's just one of those things where it's like, man, if you just took your wins and had no losses, you'd really be in good shape, right?
Yeah.
But you say something really pretty. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry, but you need to see the future. You need to think about it tomorrow. What you're doing next? What is your next project? To be optimistic. Really love it. I think it can be the slogan of every Amazon seller, because every day you can Amazon restrict your product, or I don't know.
And that's the unfortunate part of the Amazon business. I mean, imagine, I've always said this, imagine if Amazon just made it easy for us to do what we're supposed to be doing instead of dealing with ASIN restrictions and competitor takedowns and people telling you that they change your listing when you're the brand owner. Like, imagine if all you did was have to launch new products and sell products. Like, everybody would be way more successful, including Amazon. They make it really hard to go all in because of those things. And I think that they're so easy to solve. And Amazon, I think, should put out a verified seller program and vet every seller and have a badge and, higher level support for companies that have been on the platform for a couple of years and do over $1 million in revenue. Why don't they take the steps to invest in those people? And they spend a lot of time chasing bad actors, right? People who are manipulating listings, trying to take advantage of reviews when most sellers aren't doing that, or legit sellers. So for me, it's like, wow, if Amazon could just make this a place where it's easy and the factors against us aren't generated by Amazon, there would be a lot more sales and a lot more, invention happening.
Yeah. But you have to be optimistic. I want to share with you something that we had last Mother's Day. We have a product that it's gift for mom. This is the product, and it sells pretty well every year on Christmas and on Mother's Day. And we well prepared, organically, PPC, ranking, and with inventory. And it started selling and started peaking. And about, I think, a week before Mother's Day, Amazon took 6,000 units of our inventory and put it as FC processing. And then the customers saw it deliver after Mother's Day. And then there's nothing to do. You call them and you cry and you yell them and you do whatever you do, but there is nothing you can do because they say, I'm sorry, we're sorry. We will work on it. Our team is working on it, and Mother's Day is past. So you need, as you say, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry, but let's think about the Christmas.
Exactly.
I'm always, when there is some hurdle that happened or something, whatever. So I'm always say it's great and it's good to cry for until nighttime. You go to sleep, you wake up, it's a new day. Forget whatever happened. Just keep fighting.
Yeah. And learn from your mistakes, right? Plan ahead and ship in, instead of shipping in 6,000 units, ship in 1,000 at a time, right? Because one of them might go through. So there's a lot of opportunity. And this is where the community, the $1 Million Sellers group, really is valuable, is being able to talk about these things constantly and people sharing. And we push people to engage, and we give out awards and people win prizes and things like that, valuable prizes, just by engaging and supporting each other and supporting members. And so, when there's hard times, you really need a community. I mean, Israelis know this better than anybody, right? It's just so nice to have a community that gets you, that you can talk the same language, you've been through the same things, and also people have learned how to solve those problems. So, you know, we've solved problems up to Christmas. Like one member won a major award for basically saving Christmas for, like, you know, 100 members. He probably made them $100 million, honestly, or more, you know, across 100 members, you know, some doing 10 million, whatever. Like literally there was shipment issues and you couldn't get your stuff in there, and he figured out a way to do it and share it with the community and, like, you know, change Christmas. Or, you know, a new PPC idea or concept that we, you know, invented in the group, you know, is literally bringing in like 10-cent ACOS, right? Think about that. How much does that save you over time? How much does saving on a container or logistics or getting a better service provider save you over time? And so that compounds through the community and the resources that we get and the opportunities that you have amongst sellers. So, you know, having a community like MDS where it's really hardcore sellers, really, you know, all about giving more and getting more, really makes a difference in how you operate your business and the quickness that you can overcome obstacles and issues within the business.
Could you share with us some of the community's conversation that you talk about how they see Amazon in 2023?
Yeah, right now we're talking about China, even how there's tension between US and what might happen if, you know, there's trade embargoes and people aren't able to get their products, and moving factories outside of China, and the troubles that people have done over the last couple of years because of COVID, moving their factories out, and what worked, what didn't work. We're talking about AI and how to, you know, improve your business and speed up processes through AI. And people in the group are amazing, right? Like they're able to like create some sort of, you know, Google Sheets script, you know, to automate a lot of processes, and they just share it with the group. And all of a sudden, you know, that thing that you were doing manually or trying to do in your own or figure it out, it was just handed to you. And, you know, we have this thing called MDS only. And so we really try to keep things in the group because that's our leg up. That's how you get the leg up on the competition, right? And so AI is huge. Logistics, you know, getting ready for, you know, Prime Day, tips and tricks and hacks. You know, it's in real time. It's like as Prime Day is happening, hey, this is what I did on my listing, or this is what I did with my PED, and this is how it improved my business, and this is how it improved my sales for the year. So yeah, just really, really cool stuff that members like yourself, you know, would think about and have been through. You know, it's just a different situation when you're $1 million seller versus a seller just getting started or just done $100,000, your first $100,000.
So what you said about China is crazy, because, you know, I just been in China now, and the Chinese talk about basically exactly the same thing. So, but they are saying like the export is very low. Many manufacturers are moved from China to like Vietnam now because of the COVID and because of the tariff, like the HTS code tariff, and many people like losing their job there, and we don't believe in China anymore. And it's just crazy, like to hear it like from the US side and to hear it from China side is just amazing.
Yeah. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but having a community that really knows the subject, and we have members that live in China too, and also in Taiwan and Vietnam and things like that. And so you get a lot of input from those people where you'd be on an island if you were by yourself, or you're just trying to watch, you know, a podcast like this, right? We're not going into detail, having a deep discussion on it. And I wouldn't call myself an expert on it either. So I need to learn from my peers. And that's kind of really the most important thing, because it's going to change quickly. I mean, while COVID was happening, we had, you know, updates from our factories, of course, but also, you know, our friends in China, like communicating through other means, right, that they can access. So.
Yeah. You know, most of our audience are Amazon sellers, but there are a few people that I know that listen to us that don't sell on Amazon yet, and thinking, a business person, employees. Do you think it's still room to a new seller to start his journey on 2023?
I do, actually. Yeah, I think there's still a lot of opportunity, but it's a skills game now. It's not a luck game. Everybody who got in the early days, it was luck, you know, getting it was just, you got the right product at the right time, you built your moat. You know, the brand I sold, like the product my hero wasn't my original product. I was actually avoiding it because it was expensive and hard to ship and all that stuff. And, you know, because I started early, we became the leader in the space, and you couldn't catch us. Like, we had way more reviews, better, you know, quality and all that good stuff. And so I think that right now, you really need to make sure that you launch products that have potential in actually making money, because the costs have gone way up, right? So don't launch a product if you buy it for $1. Let's say you buy it for $5, you're gonna sell it for 15. That's not enough room for me. I need at least 4, if not 5x going in, thinking that I can get that, because that will leave me room for error and that will allow me to grow. People that want to get started, I honestly think the best way to do is to, there's some great educators out there. Brandon Young's one of them. And they have courses and things like that, but there's a lot of information on the internet that's free. But the reality is, if you don't go through the motions and do it yourself and start, you won't do well on your first product, no matter what. There's just too many things. Like it sounds easy to us that we've done it, but every time I used to go to lunch with somebody, explain how Amazon works and what you have to do to grow your brand or whatever, it would take 4 hours and none of it would get implemented by them. So I stopped having, helpful lunches for other people, because it didn't go anywhere, right? It's complex when it comes out of your mouth, but it's easy in your head. And so my suggestion is really start small. Do one that you're going to fail on, but then you know how to list a product, you know how to fix the issues, you know how to ship into Amazon, you know how to do all this stuff. Maybe you lost $1,000 or maybe you get a win, but start small where you don't lose a lot of money, but you learn the entire business process. It's like, you're not going to go open a restaurant if you've never worked in a restaurant before, right?
Definitely.
So I think you got to get your start somewhere, and it's not get rich quick. Don't listen to anybody that says, we got an automated store. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. They're just collecting your money and paying you out from other people's money. There's no automation that runs Amazon. And even these guys doing $100 million have major employees. They have major issues. And, while it's a great business and they're killing it, it's not easy. It's not.
I think that's really, that's really in contrary to what everything we ever heard. Like,
yeah,
everybody
definitely
said, 2023, 2024, you have to have more capital, you have to invest more, but you're coming and said differently. Like, before you become like a chef, starting with cutting the tomatoes, right? Mm-hmm. So do like a trial, understand the business, and then later on.
Yeah. I also agree, though. Don't get me wrong. My suggestion is more like, learn, right? You got to learn by doing. People, right? You can't just follow a course and okay, this week I'm going to do course number 2, and then this week and at the same time launch your product. We know launches are very important, and the steps that you have to do in the order and the tracking, all this stuff is super important because it's technical now. But don't get me wrong, I do think it takes way more capital to be successful. But it doesn't take $100,000, it doesn't take $50,000. You can do it with 10. But the days of buying a product for $5,000, throwing it on Amazon and making your money back right away, that's gone, right? Like on your first product, I mean, obviously some people get lucky, but what I'm saying is, I think the best education is actually doing all the steps, because it's not easy. You run into issues that aren't in a course, right? You load your product, it tells you that it's going to cost more money, or your UPC code's rejected, but you just put it on all your boxes. Now what do? Right? You shipped in 6,000 units. Maybe if you just shipped in 1,000 and then 1,000, a couple of them would have been checked in. It's like the whole thing, splitting up your shipments is actually a real tip, right? Especially leading up to holidays and stuff like that, where they get impacted. So I guess I am contrary to belief, but I just think that anybody can do any business, but it takes somebody to really understand it. You have to be sharp, and you have to utilize resources and community and videos to do it. And there's just too much to do on your own, and too much to do. Putting $20,000 on the line for your first product is just, I think, crazy at this point.
And I will add something that back in the days, I started in 2014. So it was one-man show, but because it was easy, listing PPC, not PPC images, I took with my iPhone. But now it's a show. Now you need to be more professional. So will you advise to do it one-man show, or to hire people as a freelancers, as agencies to do it for you?
Yeah, this is an interesting question. I think it's got to be a one-man show at the beginning. Like, you got to know all the components of it. Every time people hire agencies or freelancers, I would say 7 out of 10 times it doesn't go well, right? Agency promises all these things, doesn't happen. It actually goes the opposite direction. Freelancers go MIA, or they're working for 12 people at the same time. Hiring your first VA to handle customer service, I think that's still the best way to do it, right? But yeah, it's something, like I said, I think education is super important at this point, and it's only going to get harder, and AI is going to become more prevalent in e-commerce. I'd say don't chase all the things. Don't start a Shopify store and try to sell there with Facebook ads while you're doing Amazon, and don't go on Walmart, and don't go to Europe, and just focus on one, US channel, right? Or if you're in Germany, focus on Germany and start there, and whatnot, because it's gonna allow you to have a little bit more focus and learn, because I think this business has become so much more complex since 2014, right? And then as far as building a team, I think that's super important if you're going to be launching and doing a lot of stuff. I to this day still have a store. It's doing over $1 million in revenue, and I put in a couple hours a week. So it's possible. The customer service automated. I ship in a few times. My PPC is automated. I just check things, and I'm not launching and doing a bunch of stuff, so I don't have time for it. But it's a cool business that puts out a great side income for me to invest in and utilize. And I also, want to stay relevant, right, in the space. So that brand's doing really well. Once I cut off all the products that we had launched in the past that weren't doing well, it's now just focused on the ones that have the good margins. And I think here's another tip: like, you might be making $1,000 on one ASIN, but losing $1,000 across 10 ASINs. So effectively, you're netting zero. If you just kill off the old ones, you're gonna be making $1,000 a day, right? And so people forget to look at the top and the bottom, because they're just looking at my total profit for the day, and it's like, well, is it worth all that effort and all the capital tied up on this one when I could just go and optimize this one, right? And then never run out of stock, because now my capital is not split across all these products, and then go find another product that meets those needs. So when to cut it off is super important. And yeah, I think that's a pretty cool thing that people don't pay attention to enough.
I think, by the way, that's Ian, regarding like for every business, like, you have to put emotion aside. You have to understand if the time worth the money that you are basically generated from it, and if not, move on.
Exactly.
What is your exit plan? Because you see, you never rest.
I know. I need to rest. MDS is run by a really great team, and we build teams on our other projects. So I'm not the doer of everything, right? I'm a visionary. I'm a leader. I'm actually not a great integrator, or I don't make the SOPs and stuff. I come up with the ideas, and I do the 80-20, I'll do the 20% of the effort that produces 80% of the results, but the rest of it I can't put time into. But I'm always very looking at the unique opportunities out there. But I think having a good team is super important. And when you get to a level where you can hire a COO or somebody to take off this from your plate, it's super important. Right now I'm trying to hire a controller to help relieve me from a lot of the financial money movement things I do across businesses. So because it's just a lot of work, and I get a lot of invoices, and I have to audit a lot of things and look at lots of P&Ls. And so the more I can relieve myself from those type of activities that are lower hourly rates, I can put myself into a higher bracket of doing more stuff. Of course, I want to exit at some point. But don't really see that as a near term thing, right? And of course, like with multiples like as low as they are on Amazon stores, it may not be a great time to exit, right? I mean, to exit for 3 times your EBITDA, your take home cash. I mean, you're going to collect that over the next 3 years. If not, if it keeps growing at the 25%, I mean, you're going to be a much better place just doing almost nothing, right? Operating. Now there are some risks, of course, but I've already exited, so I feel a little bit of comfortability, right, with where I'm at and my investments that I've made over time. So for me, the exit isn't the ultimate goal. I think right now I'm more focused on how do I create more cash flow. Let's
elaborate about this, because you say something really, really important. You say, you and other sellers say, okay, for 3x multiple, I won't sell my business. What is a good multiple that you think is decent for an Amazon seller that sells for 7-figure high?
It depends on what you're doing with the business. I think 3 is definitely fine. It's average market for any type of business, right? So it's not bad. But these businesses can be scaled back to a point where you can actually increase your EBITDA and just kind of coast like I'm doing, right? Where you're not launching a ton of products, but you're just collecting money, and you can optimize a lot of things that might save you money, and you can increase your multiple later on. I mean, I sold in the mid 3s for multiples, so I'm not saying don't take those things. it needs to be a reason to do it. And like I said, I think it goes back to timing, right? That we were talking about. What's the right time? And when the multiples were 5 or 6, we were telling people like, this is a great time to sell, because even if you can increase your EBITDA by 50%, if multiples go down by a point, it's going to wipe out that entire value that you create. So like you're up against time and stuff like that. And it did get pretty high with all the risks and stuff involved. So it really is timing and where you're at in your business cycle and how much time you want to invest and where you think you can take it. Because if you can grow it, obviously I don't see multiples going, to 1 ever, that's for a good business, or 2, is very unlikely. So we're at basically market, equilibrium, right? And so if it goes up from here, that's great. If you're done with the business or you want to move on, or you want to, the other thing is, here's the cool thing you can talk about. Like, let's say you sell your business for 3x, right? And you get, let's say $1 million. Okay. Well, what can you buy with $1 million, right? Think about the business. You might have sold, like, for $1 million, you probably sold what, a $3 million business or something like that, right? Okay, well, I could go buy a $10 million business with $1 million down and scale that to 20 million, right?
Yeah. So
you can go get a loan, all that stuff. So like, what can you use that money for, that 3 years extra, to like go leverage yourself to a higher level faster? If you move markets, that's hard, I think. So for me, I think like it's all situational. I think that we're at this like, equilibrium. I don't see it like going down, like nobody will sell, right? So this is a good multiple, but I see it going back up as things stabilize, as you expand your brand on other channels, as you get to higher revenue levels, right, at higher profitability levels.
So do you believe we will see again the 5 and 6 multiples?
I think so. So. Maybe not, maybe 5, 6. Yeah. I mean, big businesses can get up to 10. I mean, I've seen people get, even to this day, right? It just depends on where you're at and how confident you are and what your finances look like to scale to that level. Because it does take, finances to do that.
Yeah. I'm sure the interest level have some effect on that, no? Yeah.
Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
now it's been the highest in, like, I think in the last 22 years or so in the States. And in Israel, it's just 20 years, and in Europe also, the highest in like the 25 years. So it's a problematic time right now.
Yeah, but still good. Take your wins, right? Invest your money for life. Like, it's cool to make a couple $100,000 a month, a year, or whatever. But also getting $1 million and putting that in your bank and starting again in the same business line of business. You have all the mechanics, nothing's changed. Invest $100,000 of that $1 million, and you can scale up pretty quickly, if you know what you're doing. Right. It's just like launching any product. So I think it's a unique time for sure.
Yeah, and I think we can talk for hours because it's super interesting, and I think you have plenty to share. But we're heading to the end of the episode, and we have a question in every show, same question that we ask all our guests. And I think you already did it. But we will ask, what would you do with $10 million net if you want them tomorrow?
What would I do for $10 million?
Do with it.
Man, I'd probably buy $5 million of leveraged real estate for sure.
Real estate.
Yeah. I would put a couple million into, index funds for sure. I'd take $1 million and play with it in the stock market, and I'd go buy a business probably. If I wanted to have a business. If I did, $10 million, I don't need a business anymore. Cash, right? But I would basically go bet on a couple of like businesses. I think early investing, right, on some businesses I can advise and help them scale and not have the same issues that I had. So I would like to invest in businesses that I could be involved in.
I think I didn't hear a vacation. I mean, did you hear the vacation? Something? a week?
Yeah, I would love 365 days of vacation, maybe.
Yeah, I have been thinking about lately is like, when am I going to just take off a year again and just have like a year to myself or something like that? Not to not work, but really have no meetings scheduled, no deliverables. I think I'm at that place in my life. My kids are getting old enough. Like, maybe not a year. I'd probably get stir crazy, whatever. But I want to travel more. I want to do unique things. I want to visit people. I want to just like schmooze around and not be stuck at a desk and stuff like that. So to me, that would be a vacation, because I just went on a RV trip, to Yellowstone, and tried not to work for a couple of weeks, and it was hard. And I prefer to check in and stimulate my brain and stuff like that here and there, but not be tied to things. So for me, a good vacation, has a good balance, but a lot more of like just free time.
It's funny, like we're on the same exact age and we are thinking exactly the same, like exactly same mindset.
I think it'll be just like, I know people have sold their companies and taking time off, and it's good. It's healing. You get to go.
Yeah. Healing the brain.
Mind for sure. But I love what I do. I love helping people. I love building the community. I love connecting with people like yourselves. And, for me, it's not about self-promotion or, like how much money can I make off of people. It's really about like how much value can I offer the community and how many problems can I solve. And that's kind of how I operate.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time. I must say that I asked a few colleagues, some of them were guests in our episodes, that are MDS members for over a year, and they're super happy with it and learned a lot from the people and from the events. And I think every seller that sells over $1 million, 7-figure, need to be in this kind of masterminds or a group, and MDS is beautiful place to be. And my suggestion to you is take a rest. You need to rest, but you're still an entrepreneur and you do great things, and I'm sure that we will meet in the future with a new tools that you'll provide.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate the vote of confidence, and we love our members, and they're really what makes the group special, right? It's not me. I'm not the educator. I'm not the leader. I'm just trying to keep the engagement high and come up with new ideas to add value. So with that, it's a great opportunity to be on your podcast, and I appreciate chatting with you guys. You guys had some great questions on the emotional side too, which was refreshing.
For me, it was one of the best calls we had, Ellie, for sure. Like so many insights and great opportunity. And thank you, Ian, for your time again.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Bye, Ian. Thank you very much.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.